This week on Short Rest Studios, we're going to go to the Reaper Miniature Factory in Denton, Texas, and take a tour. And we're going to ask them, why in the heck do all these guys hold their shields backwards?
That's really why we're going there. Not to tour it. I don't care about anything else but to ask that question. So it'll be a short episode, but we will finally know the answer.
That's why it's called Short Rest Studios.
That's right.
Well, here we are in Denton, Texas at the Reaper Mini Factory. This is their store right here behind me. You can see Scott's doing something back there. But this week on Short Rest Studios, we're taking a tour of the Reaper Miniature Factory. All right, this is our first step onto the factory floor at the Reaper Miniature Factory in Denton. And we don't know what any of this stuff is, but this guy right here does. That stuff he was just tearing up in his hands was actually the silicone that they used to make the molds out of. And they take these things and they put them in this vulcanizer, this machine right here, and it heats them up to create the molds, right? And then I don't know what happens next.
Well, later on he'll explain. He'll basically explain the process of the siocast machines. That once the negatives are made in the molds, then they inject the plastic into basically into the molds, and then there's a process of using air and creating a vacuum, and then at the end of it, you end up with a screw with a bunch of
sprue.
A sprue with a bunch of miniatures on the end of it.
Just like what they use for large injection machines, which we have one here. You'll see one later. But the plastic gets injected into here, and then there's an air channel right here, and you can see inside this mold right here, there's this little air channel that goes around the edge.
Yeah.
And so the air is going to be sucking through this little hole here, and it sucks air through all the way around the whole mold. Huh. And what happens is the plastic gets injected, and then the air will suck it through. So it's kind of like drawing it through. Yeah. It's drawing it through the mold.
Now here John's showing us a sprue with some minis on it. That's what all those things are, the big stacks of things. Those are all minis there that they have been printing, and you might recognize some of them if you are a fan of any Reaper minis and have bought some of their ready-to-paint kits, right?
Right. And you can see, what we'll see later is I make the gates very thin. They're about 2 sheets of paper, so all you do is just...
This is where he's going over just how they made masters in the past, how they made them out of metal, and then they would use those masters. So if they have to go back and print older stuff, this is all the masters that are metal.
And we're going to ask them, why in the heck do all these guys hold their shields backwards?
If you look at a lot of old models, you'll see, like, I use Rangers as an example. Like, if you look at an old Archer, he's like this, right? Very 2D. It's because of the flat molds. That's the only way you can make a mold. And his arm's pushed against his body.
Right.
Yeah. There's no negative space here. Because if his arm was pushed out, like I said, when you push that rubber, it's either gonna snap or it's gonna envelop it, and then every time you take it out, it's gonna pull like this, and it's gonna snap every time. So that's why traditionally a lot of older metal stuff is very flat and things like that. That's why you see swords like always in this plane. And so if that same Ranger example, if he's like this and his bow is canted to the side, like tilted, you can't do that because it's just that plane doesn't work in mold making. So that's why if he did do that, we would chop his arm off, turn it into a separate mold, and kind of tilt it to where it to be flat so it could cast correctly, and then you would attach it yourself. So if you wanted more dynamic models, generally they were chopped up because that way you can get more dynamic poses and things like that.
Interesting.
But now, with this new like silicone and siocast and things like that, we can make a lot more dynamic, like I showed you with the vampire, with the fingers and things like that.
This is where they do their live streams. They do it on Twitch, anything that they film. So giant green screen. It's actually what our studio looks like. You just can't see it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
They copied us.
The bookshelves behind us are actually a green screen.
I can't believe they did that. It's terrible.
I know.
This is us walking really fast through where they do online orders.
Yeah.
So this is the actual warehouse itself, which is cool because they have something called ReaperCon, and I guess they get really into it, and they totally decorate this environment.
Yeah, it's a big con that they have every year on Labor Day weekend, and yeah, every year they have a different theme, and there's decorations throughout the warehouse. This was from a pirate themed con that they had, but there's decorations throughout the warehouse. There's stuff in the break room; it's decorated up, and now John is showing us how metal minis are made, and this is one of my favorite parts. Yeah, he's just talking about like making car tires.
Basically.
They're rubber molds.
Eventually, he'll get to one of his special abilities, which is the ability to throw a flaming disc of rubber.
He does like to show us how to use lighter fluid with these things. Rock hard rubber.
He's saying you can buy a custom rim job of this for your car if you want.
Don't say rim. Please don't say that.
I'll edit that out.
Find that
Please.
It's going to unpeel itself.
Oh, wow.
So it acts as like a. See, it's really hard for me to.
Yeah, this is where he's showing us the lighter
to peel
fluid.
off.
Yeah. Well,
It just peels apart.
see how he knocked it over? He almost started an entire fire of the factory and burned it down.
So the lighter fluid acts.
I wonder if
as
they're
a-
going to get in any
the way
OSHA
that the-
issues if we show this.
Reaper Mini shut down after tour video goes viral.
Studios.
So what I'll do is I'll cut out a little section.
This is where he's looking for his chewing gum, but he can't find it. So I don't know. Anyways, he keeps talking.
I don't
I'm pretty sure one of the minis I bought is actually designed after him.
Where,
Some
like, where I'm
dwarf
gonna
guy
put
with
build up,
a long
and
beard.
I'll put leather glue on, and then I'll put a little piece of rubber there, and then once that dries, it'll basically kind of seal it. Yeah, so it works both ways.
Ah, yes. This is where you ask him to hold Thor's
He
hammer.
offered me a Toblerone.
Doesn't look like chocolate at all. That's the metal they use when they're making the metals. And one thing of interest was that's a pewter-free lead that they use.
Lead-free pewter.
Lead-free pewter. Yeah, it's pure lead. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so yeah, they do make them out of pewter, but it's lead-free. And he's going to show us, actually, this was my favorite part. Watching him cook this stuff up.
Yeah, there's this molten stuff, and it's, obviously he showed you how they made the mold, and this is how they pour the metal into
Yeah,
it.
the mold is down inside that pot, and
It's
it's spinning, and he pours the metal in it, and you pull it out. And I don't know if you can see on the video, but you can see the steam coming off the things when he pulls them out of there.
When he pulls it apart, yeah, you can actually see it. Hopefully, it shows
I mean,
up.
we could see it. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
And they have this giant, it's like a car wash vacuum, basically, that sucks all the toxic stuff. But yeah, you can see the smoke.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
pointing at it like you can see me pointing.
Yeah. Yeah, but those are some metal miniatures.
And everything they do, they're net zero. So if something doesn't work, they just
Zero
crunch
waste facility.
Yeah, they crunch down the plastic or they remelt the metal and reuse it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, this is where they package the stuff. So this is maybe the least interesting part, but it's still kind of cool. They put the little blister packs in those holes, and then they come lay the card on top, and they heat it, and there's adhesive there, and that's what puts the package.
So our
together.
plan is that we're going to create our own cards and then take another tour and then replace them and see how
Yes.
many they take out.
Short Rest Studios limited edition.
That's
Reaper
right.
Minis.
Yes. That's the idea. At
I
least.
wonder how much we'd have to pay them to do that.
This is their temporary 3D printing.
So something that people may not realize is that when you 3D print stuff, it's not plastic. It looks like plastic, and I mean, for all intents and purposes, for most of us, it pretty much is plastic, but it's not the same thing. It's a resin or the filament that they make it out of. But
This is where they manufacture their own paint, and they have two different machines. They basically use dialysis machines to fill the little paint bottles, and then he goes into this one, which is a very custom built one just for them. I guess a medical supply company did it, and it just automates more of the steps that they have to do manually when they're using the dialysis machines. But why it wasn't in production over there, I don't know.
Yeah. But pretty cool. You noticed me laughing is because I thought he was calling one of those ladies the manual machine, but he was actually referring to the actual machine. that's operated manually as opposed to this one.
One thing he did share about the paints, though, is he says that they tend to make their paints thinner than some of the competition at the like Citadel or.
And it's on purpose.
Yeah, it is done on purpose. It's the lady who does it. This is finally get to go into the store.
Yeah, Scott was trying to bust in there
earlier,
at the beginning.
When I was high on my caffeine kick, yeah.
But so this is new. They had a store before, but it was much smaller. But this is their new store. It's got tons of stuff. It's got a big gaming area over on the other side there, and they're going to put in a pizzeria.
Yep.
So Scott and I are going to go back in a few months when they get that pizzeria up and running.
It's going to be all plastic. It'll taste weird, but it'll be fun.
Plastic pizza.
These are just some of many, many miniatures that they have on display that people have painted.
Just incredible. Some incredible paint jobs.
Right.
Man.
And they mainly play Magic in this space. I guess this is what the space is known for, but.
Well, the store was known originally for Magic. I actually think that they may have a lot more selection and that kind of thing now. But I think they do a lot of Magic the Gathering there. But they got a lot of cool stuff, man.
Yeah, if you're local in the area, definitely worth a visit.
Yeah, this is just for game stores, just for your local game store. I mean, this is a nice place. All right, well, there was our tour of the Reaper Mini Factory in Denton, Texas, and I didn't really know what to expect going in. I expected maybe some of it to be really fascinating and some of it to be, maybe boring, but it was all really interesting. And I had a lot of fun, and just getting to meet John. I mean, he was such a cool guy.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, he was like super nice, super knowledgeable. It was a great trip, man. I'm really glad we did it.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell John had a real passion. He's been there for 12 years, and he actually told us the story of how he got hired there. He was there playing Magic, and he had to happen to put an application earlier, and I guess somebody quit that day, and they interviewed him on the spot, and he got the job. So he definitely bless you. He definitely knows his stuff, and given the tour of it, it was much bigger than I was expecting.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it was smaller than I expected. Yeah, that's right. They're expanding.
Yeah. What did he say? Like, there's a new piece of land that they've just finished doing some work on, and he said the new building's gonna be like 11 times the size of the old one.
Yeah. It's just, I guess there's a lot of pollen. One thing they are doing that we didn't touch on the video is that there are aspects of the business today which they do overseas, and they're trying to put all of that back into what they're doing on site.
There you go. Yeah, you showed that. This is all the money I spent at the game store. Don't tell my wife. So there's actually some other stuff in this bag too, but let's see here. So I got some Loot Studio stuff. I got, and everybody's probably freaking out like, he just dumped all those minis out there, he's gonna break them. Okay, so let's look at this guy right here. This is a skeleton guardian from the old Reaper line.
The Bones, just called line. Bones. Yeah.
And it's made of recycled PVC. And you guys know what PVC is. I mean, they make pipes out of it. They make plastic bags out of it, all kinds of stuff. But you can see, like, it's super bendy, like, really flexible. Like, look at his arm. Like, he could scratch his back with that sword,
right,
man. Very, very flexible. Now, I mean, there are some upsides to this. Like, you could probably drop this thing off a building and it would break.
Right.
But it does make it hard to paint and hard to handle. But then we've got, let's see. This is a goblin. Okay, this is from the Bones USA line. And I literally just took it out of the package because you can see he's actually got, you have to attach the spear to his arms. Those are his hands on the spear. So you can see, like, the spear is really flexible. Right, it's also meant to be removed from that base.
Right,
but the rest of him is a lot stiffer, a lot harder. I mean, like this skeleton, man, you can bend his legs and everything. So this is a much better material, and that's the thing. Right now, the Bones, the old Bones line is made in China.
Yep,
and it's made out of this stuff, and the new stuff is made right here in the USA, in Texas, and it's a much better material. And he did show us, the one machine that is actually the type of machine that they used to make these. They named it Thomas because it looks like a blue train.
Right.
but they actually just use it to make bases now.
Yeah.
And where are they? There are my bases. So you get to see all my junk and clutter. So, but yeah, like if you had any, I know a lot of people have bad feelings about Reaper Bones minis. Not the design really so much, and people like their metal minis. But a lot of people have bad feelings about the Bones series because of the material. And John even told us he was kind of embarrassed
Right.
by the old material. But if you've had any misgivings about Reaper Minis,
Yeah, check out the USA
check out
stuff.
the Bones USA
Yeah.
stuff, man, because it's like I love their designs and they go with that heroic scale, 32 millimeter. But it's also just like the features are exaggerated and they're kind of cartoony, which makes them a little more fun
Yep.
to me. And you know it helps painting them and all that kind of stuff. But I was really impressed. I'm really impressed with the new product, and I was really impressed with the factory. And I was fairly new to Reaper before this, but I'm a fan now, man. Like they sold me. I love this new stuff.
Yeah, it's only minis that I've purchased outside of stuff that I've printed. But in terms of, which you mentioned in the video, the resin is much different than the plastic. I didn't know that going into it. And I remember asking him kind of early on, is this resin? And that's when we learned about the plastic piece of it. But big fan of it. Highly encourage you guys visit their website. Just check out what they have in their store. And then also, if you are in the area, we mentioned Labor Day weekend is when they have ReaperCon.
Yeah, so it just ended not too long ago.
Right. And he says it's getting to the point now where it's so large that they're going off facility. But once they expand into their newer warehouse, then potentially they might have enough room. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
But yeah, check them out, reapermini.com. You can order pretty much anything that they make on their website. But also, if you're in the area, head to the game store at the factory, and you can pick up anything they got. And there are lots of stores that sell Reaper Minis too. In fact, I just visited one this past weekend. But so visit Reaper, get some of their stuff, man. They're really great people. I mean, it's a locally owned business. It's the guys who own it are brothers. They like cars. They like Camaros. That's why there was a Camaro in the factory.
That's right. John doesn't care about them.
John doesn't care about cars, but
they even have a car wash inside.
Yes, for washing their Camaros. Right. It was it was like a 68 Camaro, and it was kind of cool. But yeah, check them out at reapermini.com. And if you like this kind of content, I don't know how many miniature factories we could go visit, but if somebody wants to pay our way, you can send us to, I don't know, Citadel.
Right,
we could see how they make Warhammer miniatures.
There you go.
No, but seriously, if you like this kind of content and you want to get more of this, just like and subscribe to the channel. And in the comments, let us know. Like, tell us how you feel about this whole process. Tell us what you thought of the tour. Tell us what you think about Reaper. Tell us what kind of content you want to see. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, this is Short Rest Studios.
I'm glad that you explained to me that you had to take this off, because I would have just painted it like that and left it, and it would have just looked really terrible. So.
Like, what does it have lumps on it? It's bigger on the inside. Reaper Miniatures. Curse you, foul orc! Die!